The sport of air racing started in Europe well back in 1909, but over the past 95 years, it's never really captured enough of the public's imagination and moved into the mainstream of sport. In 2005, however, two completely separate organizations are hoping to change all that. Both combine the elements of an air race and a traditional aerobatics display. But the two formats are completely different. So with the difficulties of getting a new sport up and running, will either of these ideas really take off?
It takes a special, possibly mad type of person to weave a plane through some air-filled pylons while performing aerobatics at over 250 miles per hour. But at the Red Bull Air Race World Series, you'll see 10 pilots doing just that.
You're down low, you're pulling 10 Gs going over 200 miles an hour. I mean, it's got to be exciting.
It's the first year for the series, with events in 7 locations ranging from Dutch city centres to Old English manors.
The location is very, very important, and also it just makes it so much more dramatic and spectacular when you're seeing it somewhere where you've never seen anything like this before.
It's great, mate. It's really good. Yeah, it's been brilliant. Nice day out.
Absolutely amazing. The pilots were, wow, out of this world. Operators.
In Abu Dhabi, we had 120,000 spectators. In Rotterdam, we had 700,000 spectators because it was on the river.
Those numbers are helped by free admission, but Red Bull may be facing a fight for aerial domination from an organisation called Aero GP, which held its inaugural event in Slovenia this year. It featured a markedly different format, including side-by-side racing on a figure-8 track, plus mock dogfighting and target bombing.
What we're trying to do is become a big departure from traditional air shows. So what we want to do is break that cast, that image of air sports, and bring it into the mainstream.
Aero GP wants to kick off its own World Series next year, but whichever form your aerial competition takes, staging an event isn't simple.
Each event takes about a couple of weeks to put everything in. The course needs to be designed. We have a bunch of structures that are built, not to mention the fact that in some locations we actually have to build a runway.
Before you can even hold an event, of course, stringent safety regulations need to be met, and authorities can tend to be rather conservative.
The unfortunate thing is that many times this regulation doesn't allow scope for innovation. And what we're finding here is that it takes a long time for certain elements certain parties to warm up to an idea such as this.
Now, it may seem a coincidence that we're seeing two series emerging at the same time, but new camera technology making aerobatics more spectator-friendly has played a part. The development of high-performance airplanes worth around $400,000 and built of advanced carbon composites has also been a major factor.
Quite frankly, we didn't have an airplane capable of pulling this kind of G and making these kind of corners, even 10 years ago.
Now, from a distance, all these planes look fairly similar. However, there are 3 different types competing this weekend, although one thing they all have in common, they've all been built to withstand G-forces up to 15 G, and that is a lot of force. Someone should tell them his plane's on fire. As for the pilots, in tight maneuvers, they'll feel 10 times their own body weight pressing down on them.
It's the same amount of force, like normally like an F-16 is what I'm familiar with, and they'll pull 9 Gs. We're pulling 10. At 10 Gs, just for simplicity's sake, I weigh 200 pounds, so now my body feels like it weighs 2,000 pounds because it's 10 times the force of gravity. Which,
combined with a high-speed slalom, often just feet off the ground, makes a pretty good recipe for danger.
Yes, it can get very dangerous, very exciting, and your mind is working rather fast to solve the problems.
Meanwhile, Red Bull believes it can expand on what is essentially a rather expensive branding exercise. Not that the company's keen to discuss marketing strategy.
We just like to let our athletes and our events do the talking for us, and hopefully the fans will enjoy the event.
Whichever format you prefer, those involved are certain air racing is moving into a new era.
In 5 years, we're going to have a very solid World Tour series set up.
It is going to be a mainstream sport.
So perhaps the world is about to witness a new kind of aviation for the masses.